It's become a common sight since the start of Russia's latest invasion of Ukraine, the charred remnants of a Russian tank with its turret blown clean off. Video posted on social media has also shown the Russian tanks exploding in catastrophic fireballs when hit, causing the turrets to be hurled several feet in the air before landing next to the chassis. Known as the jack-in-the-box effect, this type of apocalyptic explosion is caused when a blast's heat or shockwave causes all the tank's ammunition to detonate. The resulting overpressure blows the tank's turret straight up into the air. Let's take a short break with the sponsor of today's video, Ground News. This is the world's first news comparison platform. Every day we process more than 30,000 articles, gathering related stories in one place so readers can see which media outlets are reporting on an issue and compare coverage in real time. In a sea of misinformation, we are really concerned about the future of news. Our website, apps and other tools are giving you the power to compare the news by swiping between headlines or get a breakdown that shows the ownership data of news sources reporting on a story. For example, if we see this story, Finland to make decision on NATO entry in coming weeks not months. We can see that 18 news sources are reporting about this. From them, 5 are leaning left, 5 are leaning right and 3 are in the center. So the bias distribution is saying that 38% of the sources lean left and right, which is equal. With this simple tool you can see is the story is someone's propaganda or relevant article. If you want to be well informed, then check in the link in the description, Ground News/Warthog, and download the free app to start think freely. Russian-made T-72 and T-80 tanks are particularly susceptible to being destroyed in this manner, in part because they both have auto-loading mechanisms that store tank rounds in a carousel at the base of the turret, said Steven Zaloga, an expert on Russian and Soviet armor. Those autoloaders typically store about 20 rounds when fully loaded. If you see film footage of a hit followed by the ammunition fire, typically what happens is that one propellant casing goes off, or one or two, because of a penetration, Zaloga told Task and Purpose. The explosion of the first propellant case tends to trigger more. And so, what you oftentimes see is a sequence where one propellant case or a couple of propellant cases go off, and then the stowage down in the autoloader goes up, basically like a string of firecrackers. Some Russian tanks have autoloaders with limited ballistic protection, but there is another problem. The autoloaders only hold roughly half of a Russian tank's ammunition, said Zaloga, a senior analyst with the Teal Group, a defense and aerospace consulting company. A fully loaded Russian tank can carry up to 40 rounds, many of which are stored in parts of the fighting compartment that are not protected against anti-tank weapons, Zaloga said. Moreover, the internal volume of Russian tanks is very small when compared with their Western counterparts. If you get a penetration to the interior of the tank, there's a high probability you're going to hit something, he said. Soviet and Russian tanks have been losing their turrets due to catastrophic ammunition explosions long before the current conflict in Ukraine, Zaloga said. Iraq's Soviet-made tanks showed the same vulnerabilities during Operation Desert Storm, as did Syrian tanks in previous wars. During wars in Chechnya, the Russians were able to reduce their losses by having their tanks carry fewer rounds so that all the ammunition and propellant was stored in the autoloaders, Zaloga said. The problem is, in many combat situations, you don't want to go out with partial ammunition loads, Zaloga said. If you get into a serious firefight, you're going to go through 22 rounds of ammunition pretty quickly. In contrast to Russian tank designs, the US military's M1 Abrams tanks store their ammunition in a way that protects the crew if any of the rounds or propellant explode, Zaloga said. In an M1, the tank rounds are stored behind blast doors, and if an ammunition fire starts, the explosion is vented through blowout panels on the roof to prevent the hot gases from getting into the fighting compartment, he said. At a minimum, it gives the crew more time to escape, but there have been crews that survived when the ammo went off, Zaloga said. The M1 was designed to take hits because the US military expected to have to face superior numbers of Soviet and Warsaw Pact tanks in Central Europe, said Army Major Mike Lascano Jr., Chief of Tactics for the Service's Armor School 2nd Squadron, 16th Cavalry Regiment. Because the M1's ammunition compartment is separated from the turret by blast walls, the crews are protected if tank rounds start to cook off, Lascano said. Even if the tank is disabled, the crew should still survive, so they can jump into another tank and keep fighting. The differences between how the M1 and Russian tanks store ammunition reveal the drastically different philosophies that both militaries have on survivability, he said. With regards to fighting outnumbered and winning, we knew that we wouldn't have the numbers and we'd have to preserve our combat power, Lascano said. Our combat power is our people. On the other hand, if you look at Russia, because they had the Warsaw Pact, The Soviet Union, they had subjugated all those states after World War II. They knew that they had the numbers. For them, it was more of quantity as quality, mass-produce tanks in an efficient, cost-effective timeline in order for them to then push those tanks out to their formations so they could mass in case of World War III. So, their priority was lethality versus survivability. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.